Hello everyone, I wish you peace and happiness. Are you all healthy? Today I will make a bamboo stand, and my mother and I will use it to hold food, utensils, and spices. Yesterday I cut some bamboo in the forest, so today I can make it faster. As a single mother, I have to do everything myself. In the morning, inside the small house filled with smoke from the stove, Huyen woke up early, lit the fire, and prepared a simple meal for the two of us. Thin smoke rose up, swirling under the thatched roof and seeping out through the gaps, carrying the warm aroma of dry wood. In the gentle light, Micah rubbed her eyes and quietly followed her mother, her eyes still sleepy but shining with peace. Huyen was busy handling the pots and pans, glancing softly at her child, her gentle eyes seeming to dispel the cold of the early morning. The space was simple, the stove smoke slightly stinging the eyes, but it contained a familiar warmth, a place where mother and daughter leaned on each other, beginning a new day full of hope. Huyen squatted beside a pile of bamboo, holding a small saw, slowly cutting each piece of bamboo to the pre-measured length. Every stroke of the saw resonated steadily in the quiet space, with the scent of fresh bamboo wafting in the breeze. She focused, her eyes following each cut to ensure the bamboo pieces were neat and fitting. After cutting, Huyen gently picked up each bamboo segment, brushed off the dust, and neatly arranged them in rows beside her. The bamboo tubes lay straight and aligned, as if waiting to be assembled into a fence or a small corner of a home. Under her diligent hands, rough materials gradually took on the shape of shelter and hope. Micah sits beside the small bamboo table in front of the roof, attentively eating a steaming bowl of noodles. Her tiny hands clumsily hold a spoon, scooping up individual strands of noodles, sometimes using chopsticks, and at other times lifting the bowl to sip the broth happily. Her innocent face lights up with delight, and her eyes follow each strand of noodles as if it were something truly fascinating. While eating, Micah suddenly frowns slightly, perhaps because the noodles are a bit spicy for her. After swallowing a sip of broth, she coughs softly a few times, quickly raising her small hand to cover her mouth. Her bright eyes blink as if the spiciness has caused discomfort, but then she looks back at the bowl of noodles, still reluctant to leave it. Micah becomes more careful, blowing gently on each spoonful before eating, occasionally taking a sip of water to soothe the spiciness. Despite feeling a little uncomfortable, her face still radiates cuteness and patience, continuing her meal with innocent enjoyment in the peaceful surroundings. Around her, the garden remains damp from the early morning dew, with a few small flowers blooming nearby, adding to the gentle scene. Occasionally, Micah turns to look towards her mother. Huyen and her mother are working together in the small yard in front of the house, creating a warm scene. Huyen diligently secures the bamboo sticks, while little Micah stands beside her, tiny hands trying to hold the frame to make it easier for her mother. Although still clumsy, she remains very focused, occasionally looking up at her mother as if to ensure she is doing it correctly. Huyen gently smiles, guiding her softly as she works. In the quiet space of the garden, the image of mother and daughter building the bamboo frame together is not only a daily task but also simple, close, and loving moments. After tidying up Micah and Appo's clothes, Huyen gently tousled her hair and let her stand nearby to play. Not wanting to waste time, she quickly returned to her unfinished work. Sitting beside the pile of bamboo, Huyen carefully arranged each piece, selecting straight and sturdy sections to make the frame. Her hands moved swiftly and skillfully, arranging them neatly and stacking them to create a stable structure. Huyen used twisted steel wires to reinforce the frame for added sturdiness. While engrossed in arranging the bamboo, Huyen suddenly paused when she felt Micah and Appo's tiny hand gently touch her hair. The girl stood behind her, softly brushing back the loose strands of hair falling over her forehead, her movements clumsy but full of affection. Huyen turned around, her eyes softening, and she smiled warmly at her child and Appo's adorable gesture. That brief moment made the space seem to pause, with only silent love spreading around. Then Huyen gently patted Micah and Appo's head and continued her work, but her heart was still filled with. When the wooden rack was finished, Huyen gently wiped it down and then began arranging the items on it. She placed the jar of pickled bamboo shoots neatly in a corner, next to a basket of dishes and utensils arranged tidily. The small spice bottles were carefully placed in their proper spots, aligned and easy to reach. Under Huyen and Appo's skillful hands, the rustic rack gradually became organized, both practical and cozy. Looking at her achievement, she softly smiled with satisfaction, while Micah stood beside her, attentively watching, as if sensing the simple yet meaningful transformation in the small house. Huyen gently lifted the small dog and placed it into a homemade walking frame designed specifically for it. Its hind legs were weak and unable to move normally, but thanks to the frame, its body was supported more steadily. She bent down to adjust the straps to fit snugly and softly stroked its head as a form of encouragement. Huyen led the small dog onto the dirt road in front of the house, where the surface was flat and easier for it to practice walking. She bent down, walking slowly while softly calling to encourage the dog to move forward. The small wheels rolled with each step, initially awkward but gradually getting used to the rhythm. Huyen kept cheering, her voice gentle. "Good boy, keep going, you and Appo's. Redoing great." Her eyes followed every movement of the dog with patience and love. The laughter and words of encouragement made the scene warm, as if giving strength for the small dog to overcome its difficulties step by step. Micah stood nearby, her gaze focused and filled with interest. In the peaceful space, Huyen's patient care for the small dog made everything feel warm. Huyen went back into the house, quickly took a bowl of food, and brought it out to the small dog. She gently removed the walker, laid the dog down in a clean spot to rest. Then, Huyen placed the bowl of food in front of him and softly petted him as a form of encouragement. The dog looked hungry and immediately bent down to eat happily, its small tail wagging gently to show its pleasure. The soft chewing sounds echoed in the quiet space, creating a simple yet warm scene. Micah stood nearby, watching attentively, her eyes shining with joy upon seeing the dog being cared for and fed. Huyen gently cradled baby Micah in her arms, softly feeding her in the quiet space of the small house. Her gentle eyes followed every movement of the child, her hands softly embracing the baby and Appo's body as if to protect her. When Micah was full and beginning to doze off, Huyen gently rocked her and softly sang a lullaby. The gentle singing blended with the warm atmosphere, gradually lulling the baby to sleep. Huyen placed her down on the bed, gently stroked her hair, and pulled the thin blanket over her. Watching her sleep peacefully, with steady breathing and a calm face, Huyen softly leaned down and kissed her on the forehead, as a gentle expression of love before leaving. She stood up and stepped outside. Huyen took her coat, put on a hat, and carried her familiar bamboo basket. Before leaving the house, Huyen carefully checked everything once more. She gently closed the inner door, ensuring Micah was still sleeping soundly in a safe space. Then, stepping outside, Huyen securely closed the outer door, and used her familiar rope to tightly fasten it to prevent the wind from opening it. Every movement was slow and deliberate. Arriving at the garden, Huyen bent down to observe each cauliflower cluster, gently parting the green leaves to check the firmness and size of the heads. When she saw that the heads were uniformly green, tightly packed, and ready for harvest, she nodded slightly in satisfaction. Carefully taking the knife she carried, Huyen brought the blade close to the base and decisively cut each head neatly. The fresh cauliflowers were gently placed into a basket, arranged neatly to avoid damage. In the quiet garden, the soft sound of the knife touching and her steady working rhythm created a scene of simple yet lively labor. At home, little Micah gently stirred and gradually woke up. She stretched her tiny body, rubbed her sleepy eyes before sitting up on the cot. Looking around the quiet house, she couldn't and Appo's see her mother anywhere. Micah looked a bit confused, blinking her eyes as if searching. Only the soft light filtering through the door and the familiar silence remained. She sat there for a while, hugging her thin blanket, her face both innocent and slightly confused when she didn't and Appo's. See her mother and Appo's figure beside her. Outside in the garden, Huyen was still diligently harvesting the broccoli that was in season. She bent over among the lush green vegetable beds, her hands skillfully parting the leaves, then cutting each flower with a decisive knife. The basket beside her gradually filled with fresh, green broccoli. Even though the sun had already risen high, Huyen continued working attentively, occasionally wiping a drop of sweat from her forehead. In the peaceful garden space, Huyen was alone, taking on all the work with enthusiasm and resilience. Micah, the little girl, got down from her lying position, her tiny legs stumbling around the house, constantly calling out in quote, "Mom, Mom," end quote. Her voice was still sleepy but gradually became more urgent when she couldn't and Appo's see the familiar figure. She looked towards the door, then back inside, her sparkling eyes beginning to fill with tears. Micah moved from one corner to another, searching desperately, her small hand clutching her shirt as if worried. The quiet house made her calls sound even clearer. Micah tiptoed to the corner of the house, took a bag of chips and opened it to eat. She chewed while sitting down next to the small dog lying on the ground resting. After looking at the dog for a moment, Micah scooped some chips and gently placed them in front of her as if sharing. The dog looked up, sniffed softly, then started eating, its small tail wagging gently. Seeing that, Micah smiled, continuing to eat her own portion. In the quiet space, her innocent actions made the scene warmer, like a way for the little girl to find joy when her mother was not around. After finishing the bag of chips, Micah remembered the pot from this morning where her mother had boiled eggs, still placed in the corner of the kitchen. The little girl tiptoed over, took a small spoon, fiddled for a while, then skillfully scooped out 2 warm eggs. Holding the eggs in her hands, Micah carefully carried them to the table and sat down properly like an adult. Her tiny hands slowly peeled off the shells, some parts still clinging to the whites, but she remained patient and continued. After peeling the eggs, Micah started eating happily, occasionally looking around as if hoping to see her mother return. In the quiet house, the image of the little girl taking care of herself, though still inexperienced, made the scene both adorable and tinged with a touch of sadness. Outside the field, Huyen had finished harvesting the lush green cauliflower rows. She carefully arranged each flower into a bamboo basket, pressing them down tightly to prevent damage. When the basket was full, Huyen bent down, straining to carry it on her shoulder, the weight slowing her steps slightly. Nevertheless, she remained steadfast, adjusting the strap and then starting to walk. On the dirt road leading to the town, Huyen and Appo's small figure silently moved forward, carrying the burden of livelihood. The sunlight shone on her back, but she continued to walk steadily, heading toward the place to sell the cauliflower, hoping to earn some money to support her and her mother's life. Huyen sat down in a corner of the sidewalk where the town was bustling with people passing by, placing her heavy bamboo basket beside her. She gently arranged the lush green cauliflower in front, neatly organized for easy viewing. The crowd was lively, and occasionally someone stopped to ask to buy, to which Huyen responded cheerfully with a kind and honest gaze. While selling, Huyen saw a woman who had just finished buying vegetables but was struggling to arrange them neatly on her bike. Without hesitation, she stood up and approached gently to help. Huyen skillfully arranged each cauliflower neatly on the bike, and carefully tied them to prevent them from falling during transportation. The woman smiled and thanked her, while Huyen simply nodded kindly. Amidst the busy town, this simple act made the atmosphere warmer, like a touch of human kindness seeping through the busy life. Even sitting in the sun, she patiently waited, occasionally wiping sweat from her forehead. The humble woman sitting beside her simple vegetable basket still exuded resilience and determination. When little Micah was sitting and playing, suddenly there was a gentle call outside the door. "Uncle Da stopped by," carrying a small gift bag containing some coconut jelly packets. Seeing Micah, he smiled kindly, bent down, and handed the gift to the child. Micah looked up, her big eyes full of surprise, then gradually lit up with joy. She received the bag of jelly with both hands, whispered thank you, and her face beamed with happiness. Uncle De sat down beside her, looked at Micah with a worried expression and gently asked, "Little Micah, where is Mom Huyen? Why did she leave you home alone?" His voice was warm but full of concern. Micah hugged the coconut jelly bag in her hands, looked up at him, her big eyes as if pondering how to answer. "I don't know where my mom went," she said. "When I woke up I couldn't see her anywhere." Uncle De stepped closer, bent down to pat the small dog lying obediently on the ground, gently stroking its head as a sign of care. The dog slightly looked up, wagging its tail softly to show familiarity. Then he turned to Micah, smiled kindly, and opened the coconut jelly bag. He carefully peeled each piece and offered it to the child to eat. Brother De stood up, glanced around the small house, and then slowly looked up at the roof. The makeshift thatched roof, stacked unevenly, had some gaps, allowing thin rays of light to seep through. A gentle breeze caused the roof to sway slightly, producing a rustling sound. He slightly furrowed his brow, his eyes deepening, as if sensing the hardship and struggle of the mother and child. A moment of silence passed, but within his gaze, a hint of contemplation and concern briefly appeared. After a day of selling, the cauliflower in the basket gradually decreased and was completely gone. Huyen took a deep breath, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and a faint sense of relief appeared in her eyes. She carefully folded the small tarp, tidied up the utensils, and tightly tied the bamboo basket. Although her body was exhausted, she still felt a bit happy because she had made a sale. Huyen stood up, slung the basket back on her shoulder, and slowly walked away from the familiar street corner, beginning her journey home to her little daughter waiting. De gently took baby Micah to the front yard, placed her on the ground, and softly bent down to straighten her shoes, worried she might trip. De stood a short distance from the small dog, slightly crouched, then gently patted his thigh and called out in an encouraging tone, and quote, "Come here, keep going, you and Oppos. Redoing great." End quote. The dog looked towards him, its front legs taking slow steps. At first hesitant, but hearing the familiar call, it bravely moved forward. De kept encouraging, his eyes patiently watching. When the dog approached, he smiled and gently patted its head as a reward. Next to them, Micah happily clapped her hands, her bright laughter filling the small yard with liveliness and warmth. Huyen returned home, still carrying the bamboo cage on her back. As soon as she entered, she hurriedly set down the basket and called loudly, end quote, "Micah," end quote. But the small house only echoed with silence. Huyen quickly moved from one corner to another, her eyes beginning to show worry as she couldn't and Oppos find her child anywhere. Her heart beat faster, her hands trembling slightly as she lifted the blanket, looked around the kitchen, and then ran out the door. Seeing no sign of Micah, a sense of unease surged strongly, causing her to rush outside in a panic to find her child. Huyen hurriedly ran to the garden corner, then dashed toward the familiar small bridge. When she arrived, she froze upon seeing Micah and Oppos' slippers lying scattered on the bridge. Her heart clenched, and her panicked eyes immediately looked down at the water below. The toy that Micah always carried was now drifting lazily down the river, shimmering with the water and Oppos' reflection. In that moment everything seemed to freeze, only fear flooding Huyen's heart. She tremblingly stepped closer, calling for her child in despair, her voice breaking through the silence, making the scene tense and suffocating. Huyen no longer had time to think. In her panic, she rushed forward and jumped into the lake, water splashing all around her. Huyen submerged herself, reaching out desperately, her mouth continuously calling her child and Oppos' name through the cold water. Every second felt endless, and the fear and love overwhelmed her, pushing her to try even harder. On the shore, the small dog saw Huyen constantly splashing underwater and barked loudly in panic. Despite its weak hind legs, it still tried to crawl closer to the water and Appo's edge, barking and looking down as if trying to signal something. The frantic barking shattered the quiet space, sounding full of worry and urgency. The dog kept turning around, continuously barking as if calling for more help, while underwater Huyen still desperately searched for her child in the cold water. Huyen surfaced from the water, her wet hair sticking to her face, breathing heavily and in a state of panic. She looked around in panic, then sank down again as if unable to accept reality. Water splashed up with each hurried movement, her hands flailing in despair. End quote. Micah, oh! End quote. Her call broke out, hoarse and trembling. When she still couldn't and Appo's see her child, Huyen almost lost control, tears mixing with the water, her face pale with fear. She stood in the water trembling, her wild eyes like a mad person, only able to call her child and Appo's name in despair, making the scene feel suffocating and heartbreaking. If everyone loves Huyen and Micah and Appo's mother and child, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a supportive comment for the two of them to see the next developments. Every follow and every loving comment from everyone will be a source of comfort and encouragement for Huyen to try to get through difficult days. Thank you all very much.